Welcome to Soul Trek. This episode, learning to ride a bike. This week I just happened to be thinking about birthdays and my own in particular. And I remember back, I don't remember if it was 12 or 13, I think it was my 13th birthday, I got a bicycle. And it was the bicycle I wanted. It was the in bicycle of the time. It had a banana seat, it had those big handlebars, and it was the coolest thing I could possibly think of. And of course, like I said, I was 12 or 13, so I certainly knew how to ride a bike. What was special about this one was that it was my bike. Every bike I had prior to that was a hand-me-down or a neighbor's. I can remember a friend of mine, he had a bike. This is when we were really little. He happened to have training wheels on it, and that's the bike I learned how to ride on, and eventually riding a two-wheeler. And then on this 13th birthday, getting that really fancy a bike, that everybody wanted. It wasn't long after that that bike fell out of fashion. And everybody had to have a 10-speed. All my friends were getting 10 speeds. This is when like 14 or 15 years old. So it's like just 1 or 2 years later that fancy bike I had gotten was no longer the fashionable thing to have. You had to have a 10-speed bicycle. Well, the reality is, that fancy bike I got at 12 or 13, that was 3-speed. So I was going from a 3-speed up to a 10-speed. Thankfully, my parents did get me that 10-speed bike, and it got me an awful lot of places for 2 or 3 years, bombing around Dartmouth. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what bike it is. The principle's the same, and the principles have been the same for an awfully long time. The bike is a bike. It's 2 wheels and a seat and a chain and spokes and whatever else. And the essential technology of it hasn't changed too much. I mean, sure, the aerodynamics and the quality of the material that's used and the weight, and I suppose they're made out of carbon rather than out of steel. I don't know, but the basic element, the basic principles on bikes are the same. So I've been thinking about that in terms of our spiritual journey, because I think the same kind of thing applies. There's lots of variations on the same theme in terms of us seeking a relationship with God and finding some way to enhance that in our lives. And this has resulted in lots of different kinds of spiritual practices from a whole variety of traditions, not to mention just the development of a whole variety of traditions. And there's different churches and different denominations and different clergy and different people, and lots of people wanting to give you advice, which reminds me of one thing really important. In my role in this world, a lot of people turn to me for advice about one thing or another, and it always causes a little bit of, I don't want to say anxiety exactly, but a little bit of concern because, who am I to give advice? Sometimes it's about things I know absolutely nothing about. Sometimes it's about things that I have studied in great depth. But usually my response is, well, I don't know, let's try to figure this out together. And that's not a cop-out, or at least not meant to be a cop-out. It's meant to be a way of encouraging all of us to enter that spiritual journey, enter the joy of discovery. I know that when I've sought advice from people, it's been people that point in a direction rather than people that take me by the hand and tell me this is what I have to do in order to make it. But people that kind of point and encourage, and when I fall down are there to pick me up. That's the kind of partner in my spiritual journey that I've looked for, and that's tremendously helpful to have those kinds of people. So I'm not one particularly to give advice to say that this system is better than that system, this prayer life is better than that prayer life. It's really about finding something that you like. So if you want that, fancy bike with, all the doodads on it, the banana seat and the big handlebars, or if you want the 10-speed, I suppose they make bikes now that have more than 10 speeds. I don't know. They make electric bikes. That's amazing. Anyway, whatever bike you choose, it's a bike that's going to be able to get you from here to there. And you may fall. There may be hiccups. There might be rainy days when you don't really feel like riding that bike. You might find that bike doesn't work as well as you want it to, so you can exchange it for another bike. That's one of the joys, I think, of the spiritual journey, is that we have all these options before us. And it's really important, I think, for us not only to choose different paths or whatever, but also to be there for one another as each of us choose our paths, our mode of transportation, how we plan on getting from here to there, and just really relishing in the journey itself rather than the destination, just relishing in that journey, and along the way being good and kind and generous and loving and merciful and forgiving and seeking justice and those sorts of things along that journey. You don't have to be anywhere in order to be all of those things, but along that path we should try and be that for ourselves and for others. So that's my little talk for today about our spiritual journey, our soul trek of whatever bike we happen to be on, making the best of that particular journey.